Hello and welcome to WMLT News. I'm Bailey Gillespie. The freedom of social networking is becoming a deathly problem in Mexico. The editor of Prima Hora was found dead due to her work on the social networking. She was targeted by a drug gang after she had distributed information about criminal activity onto a social networking site. A message was placed by her decapitated body that made a clear statement that those using social networking sites in the region are subject to the same outcome. Earlier this month, a man and woman's mutilated bodies were found over a Mexico bridge where a similar warning was also posted. This seems to be an alarming strategy that is trying to intimidate social networking users so that they refrain from posting violence-related information. All of these murders have occurred due to the posting on social networks that relate to Mexico drug cartel. Mexico is in an all-out war where posting violent and drug-related words can cause you to lose your life. A Concord University graduate returned to campus to sign copies of her book. Congdon set up in the library to pass out signed copies of her latest book. Congdon grew up in a small town in West Virginia. She had an alcoholic mother. As a child, Congdon was intrigued by the book Dracula and felt her own connection because of her mother's insatiable thirst for alcohol.
It helped me to realize that my mother, who drank, did have something in common with Count Dracula. Basically, I mean, it's sad to say that they had an insatiable thirst that drained others, and that's the way it was.
Congdon's memoir is called It Started with Dracula, The Count, My Mother, and Me. A lot of controversy is steaming around a small Alabama town over a new program to help criminals find Jesus. Local judges at Bay Minette, Alabama are now offering those found guilty of misdemeanor the choice of serving a jail sentence, paying a fine, or attending church. Under a new program called Operation Restore Our Community, individuals charged with a nonviolent crime have the choice of going to church every Sunday for a year as their sentence. Those who choose this route would have to check in with a pastor in the police department each week. Local police say that this measure is one that will save money while directing people down the right path. However, opposition has arose saying that the act is blatantly unconstitutional. The reasoning for this is that it violates the Constitution by forcing participation in religious activity. Now with Concord Sports, here's Shane Burris.
Thanks, Bailey. Concord football picked up their second straight win on homecoming Saturday, defeating West Virginia State University 38-7. Zach Grossi was the star of the day, throwing for 375 yards and 3 touchdowns. Brian Kennedy had a good day on the ground, rushing for 127 yards and 1 touchdown, and wide receiver Ryan Stewart had 7 receptions for a staggering 177 yards and all 3 of Concord's touchdowns through the air, including a 79-yarder right before the half. It was a nice homecoming for the Mountain Lions, and they look to keep up the success this Saturday as they host the number 4 nationally ranked Shepherd University Rams here at Callahan Stadium. Kickoff is scheduled for 1 p.m. After the thrashing that Concord laid on West Virginia State, there was only one thing on many native West Virginians' minds, and that was Louisiana State University. The Mountaineers played host to the Bayou Bengals on Saturday night in front of a hostile Morgantown crowd. Being from the SEC, the Tigers were unaffected by the crowd, piling up 47 points on the Mountaineers and defeating them by a shocking 26 points. Quarterback Geno Smith had no problem throwing against the nation's best defensive backfield, but they were rarely able to go over the top, mostly resorting to short passes and screens. WVU also showed their lack of maturity in the defense, letting LSU's quarterback Jarrett Lee throw the ball all over the field with little or no threat to his health. West Virginia will next take on the Falcons of Bowling Green this Saturday back at home. So, WVU is ready for the move to the SEC, right? Not so fast, my friend. They currently have a winning record against the SEC Conference, but 15 of those 27 wins have come against Kentucky and South Carolina. Their 3 last matchups have been against Auburn once and twice against LSU. In these 3 games, they are winless and have been outmatched and outplayed in all 3 games. While it would give the Mountaineers an increased level of prestige, the last thing that they would want to do is to lose to elite teams on a consistent basis and become less than what they are now, a Big East power. It would be a shame to give up their throne and golden streets to become the weekly SEC punching bag. Conference expansion is inevitable, but WVU is not prepared for the bright SEC lights. For sports, I'm Shane Burris. Back to you at the desk.
492 rallies were organized across the nation Tuesday afternoon. The purpose of the rallies was to convince lawmakers to save the U.S. Postal Services without layoffs and cutbacks. Its goal is to find ways to stabilize postal services and not to lay off thousands of employees. They are trying to pass a budget that would help the postal services with their financial challenges. The budget has been postponed until November 18th, which will give the Postal Service $5.5 billion. The White House, lawmakers, and the Postal Services are coming up with plans to save the post office. Stay tuned. We will return with more WMLT news in just a moment. Welcome back to WMLT News. The latest electronic waste collection drive held in Sutton on September 17th collected a shocking number of more than 11 tons. Electronic waste, or e-waste, refers to TVs, computers, stereos, VCRs, DVD players, phones, fax and copy machines, and video game consoles. E-waste is estimated at less than 4% of the total solid waste stream in the U.S. and is growing rapidly at a pace 2 to 3 times faster than any other waste stream. The 3-part electronic waste drive began last year. Since then, 30 tons of e-waste have been collected across the state. The final collection is scheduled for October 15th in Logan, West Virginia.
Whenever you're ready, go.
Here now with this week's Concord Homecoming Minute is Jillian Bailey.
Thanks, Bailey. This week, Concord was busy with homecoming. Homecoming activities included its annual parade that features all of Concord's sports teams, the marching band, the local high school bands, and organizations that were competing for homecoming royalty. The parade started outside the Athens Post Office and continued down Vermilion Street to campus. After the parade was over, the annual bonfire was held in the valley. The bonfire is where they announce the candidates, and the national fraternity Sigma Tau Gamma does their annual tradition of throwing a couch onto the bonfire. On Friday night, all the organizations competing for homecoming royalty compete in a lip sync. Lip sync is where each organization makes up a dance that is about their individual theme. This year's theme revolved around comic books. 7 organizations competed in lip sync. Third place was Batman, who was the International Club, and the Bonner Scholars. Second place was the Wizard of Oz, who was the CU Elite dance team. First place in lip sync was Mario, who was the National Sorority Alpha Sigma Alpha and the National Fraternity Phi Sigma Phi. The school allowed tailgating again this year. The parking lots allowing alcohol were located in the science lot and in the art lot. The lot outside the stadium remained the non-alcoholic lot. WMLT News talked with one of last year's homecoming royalty, Ann Indries. We also talked with our All-American Shawnee Carnett at halftime. They announced the homecoming winners. The winning candidates were the National Sorority Delta Zeta's Shannon McKnight and the National Fraternities Tau Kappa Epsilon's Robert Vess Fury. Concord ended the homecoming weekend with a win over West Virginia State University's Yellow Jackets.
Thanks, Jillian. As the 2012 presidential campaign begins to heat up, some candidates are already receiving celebrity endorsements. Mitt Romney has guaranteed support from supermodel Cindy Crawford and Tim Pawlenty, while Barack Obama picked up support from Tom Hanks and Lady Gaga. The most recent endorsements come from Vince Vaughn and John Mayer in support of Ron Paul. Many more celebrity political endorsements are likely on the way as the 2012 primary season starts up. Americans may still be feeling the impact of economic recession. According to a new census report released Tuesday, the nation's poverty rate rose to the highest point since 1993. The rate jumped nearly an entire percent from 14.3 in 2012 to 15.1 in 2010. With this increase, it is estimated that 46.2 million people are now considered in poverty. The government defines poverty as annual income of less than $11,000 for an individual and less than $22,000 for a family of 4. This phenomenon is not only affecting the adults, children are feeling the impact as well. The poverty rate for children under 18 rose to 22%. This means that more than 1 in 5 American children are living in poverty. Here now with this week's Take It or Leave It is Chris Allen.
For this week's Ticket or Leave It Home Edition, I'm Chris Allen. Straw Dogs, a film from 1971, has recently been remade. The original film, written and directed by Sam Peckinpah in 1971, captured the dark side of humanity and left the audience questioning some very controversial scenes. Peckinpah has a reputation of putting brutal, realistic violence into his films, where the main characters usually must strip themselves bare in order to survive. The 1971 Straw Dogs stars Dustin Hoffman and Susan George, a young couple, David Sumner and Amy Sumner, who return from America to Amy's home, a rural village in England. David is a mathematician who is looking for a relaxing vacation in the rural UK while he works on his book. However, harassment begins when the couple hire local workers to finish a garage. David and Amy's prolonged stay leads into some serious character development, and controversial scenes can really leave one thinking. Now for the remake. It has been written and directed by Rod Lurie, and it stars James Marsden, Kate Bosworth, and Alexander Skarsgård. The story is basically the same, with the exception of David being a mathematician, and the story is set in the Deep South, instead of rural England. David is a screenwriter who, of course, is looking to get away from the city. Unlike the realistic characters from the original, the criminals here are not, it is in the South, where backwoods rednecks would not take personal hygiene or fitness seriously. In short, they look like actors, not characters. The camera work is all right, but it too closely follows that of modern horror movies, a slasher flick, with low character development, where in the end, you probably will not be thinking much about it. Take my advice. Please see the Peckinpah version of Straw Dogs, available on Amazon.com. That's it for this week's Ticket or Leave It. Back to you, Bailey.
VH1 Save the Music program visits Shady Spring Middle School Friday. The program is dedicated to preserving musical education in schools. VH1 partnered with West Virginia Division of Culture and History and the Carter Family Foundation to achieve the goal of providing every school in the state with musical instruments. Shady Spring Middle School received a donation of $30,000 in new Yamaha instruments. Once the county has received a grant, the program returns to help other schools in the county. The initiative is 18 months in, and 21 schools in 15 counties have benefited so far. That's all for this week's WMLT News from Concord University. Tune in again in 2 weeks. Have a good day.